Hello everyone. Welcome to Livestream on M.A.I.N episode 7. Sorry, last week was supposed to be episode 17, and this week it's episode 17. We skipped out. Totally are on us. We had things going on and things come up, but that's the reality of what we do in tech.
You're so nice, Marino. You're avoiding the fact that I messaged you like 20 minutes before, and I'm like, I just can't today.
You know what? I fully have done that to you several times, so I totally get it. I end up having like these last minute fire drills that just pop out of nowhere. It's like, I know y'all are in good hands with Ned, so we'll just like let it roll. But anyways, thanks for joining everyone. And we have a special guest today.
Ew.
Who is it? A special one? Yeah.
It is you. Welcome, Whitney.
Hello. Nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
bet. Whitney, who are you?
Who are you? You're so special, but wait, who are you?
My name is Whitney Lee. I work at Datadog as a technical advocate. Who am I? I need to journal about it. Yeah,
Deep Friday questions I'm asking here.
I present rather a lot at conferences. I have streaming shows. I basically talk a lot, I think is the short answer.
All right.
Yeah.
You talk about big brain stuff though, and it's all what you make it fun.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I try. I work at that actually. In the background, I'm frowning a lot and sweating and like this. We can make it funny. This can be more interesting. Let's figure it out. Yeah.
Awesome. So, what are you working on these days? Like, what has your full attention? What are you excited about?
I'm excited about AI, which I did not think I would say even 1 month ago.
Really?
I was like, oh, I'm so sick of people talking about AI. Can't we just get back to basics? Can we talk about platform engineering and infrastructure and the things I'm more comfortable with? Mm-hmm. And then I found Cursor and my life got turned upside down. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Can
I ask you like what your level of skepticism was and what you were skeptical about before this transformation, this excitement?
Sure. I thought it was creepy. And I thought, I still think it's creepy. Let's be real. And I guess I slowly started using ChatGPT more and more and then feeling like, okay, this is a tool like anything else. This particular tool blows smoke up my ass all the time. And that's different. but just starting to see it less as like a sentient thing that's talking to me that makes me extremely uncomfortable and more like, okay, you're really dumb in some ways and really smart in some ways, and I can leverage this. And then as far as coding goes, I just didn't like the idea of it. I hadn't tried it yet. And then as soon as I tried it, well, for me, I talk and talk and talk. And so I understand conceptually what's going on with so much. But because I have a full-time job talking, I don't have a lot or didn't make a lot of time to actually go in and make the demos. Like sometimes I did if there was a reason. I feel totally capable of making the demos, but like less hands-on experience. And so I started to feel like my knowledge, my technical understanding, and then my practical understanding, like there was a big gap in between those. Oh. And now with Cursor, I can bring these things into alignment in a way that's just got me so excited.
Oh, I know that feeling because I'm primarily an instructor. And so I spend so much time teaching and building teaching materials. I don't always feel like I have enough time to actually dig into the technology. So I feel like I'm leveraging knowledge that I gained from like my previous 8 years working in cloud. And that's a good idea to have Cursor or something like that help me stay up to date and feel practical as well as knowledgeable.
Yeah. It's like I can understand how all the things I know about fit together, and I can see it now on a much more granular level than what I was doing before, but it still is happening fast enough that I can keep it into my life and my learning and my talk schedule.
Nice.
So, Cursor, not like Claude Code or Windsurf or VS Code Copilot.
Yes. And that was just happenstance. I think definitely the IDE experience, like having it be the full IDE and not something on the side where has been nice for me. I briefly fooled around with Claude Code, and that was way at the beginning, and I couldn't figure out how to work it in. I like the cursor. I like having the AI chat like built into the IDE with me. And I think the other ones might do it too, but I just happened to try out Cursor first.
No, it's a good one. I'm probably going back to it. Windsurf was bought by OpenAI, so it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do. The IDE wars are going to be the new browser wars, isn't it?
Isn't that like yet another incestuous relationship where like you got Microsoft that invested in OpenAI, and then you've got Windsurf that forked didn't they fork VS Code? Was it with? And then effectively got bought out by OpenAI. So this is a very interesting ecosystem that's going on here. I'm very curious to know what's going to happen at the end of this all. But
and you had
I'm
mentioned
here for the popcorn and ride
earlier.
Yes.
And of course, the CTO of Pulumi went to go lead development on Copilot at Microsoft.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Huh.
So Luke is doing amazing things over there, and I was watching one of the presentations on just assigning GitHub issues to Copilot.
I'm going to ask a green question. Isn't Copilot always OpenAI under the hood, or can you also choose a model like you can in Cursor?
You can choose a model. So
okay.
I primarily use Claude Sonnet 4 in Copilot because whenever I try to use the OpenAI stuff, it makes a lot of garbage, lot of garbage.
I'm very attached to Claude Code, or at least whatever I'm using running the Claude models in the background.
Big same.
Yeah. So what project were you experimenting with when you had your aha moment and it was like, oh wait, maybe this is actually helpful for this? What was in front of?
May I share my screen to my very important?
Absolutely.
That's the best. We get to peek.
So I'm going to talk you through what the beginning times were like for me, and then how my workflow has evolved as I've been playing with it. So I discovered Claude Code on a Friday, and I said Claude Code, but I was in Cursor on a Friday. And at first I was like, I know that MCP servers exist, but I'm not going to use any because I want to understand what the baseline is, what the agent is, before I add any tools on top of it. So I have clear separation of concerns in my mind. So I vibe coded for a weekend. Is my screen shared? Oh, I have to press the button.
Yes, you did.
Oh.
I push button.
I push a button, share screen.
If we could push the button, that would make it malware.
Valid point.
What Chrome window?
We're seeing a lot of new faces come to this event. I'm actually
hello, friends.
Okay, I can't seem to. I gotta resize them. Okay, are you sharing? Oh, there we go.
My very important business critical application.
Yes,
I've been working right now. And so when you press the button, it adds a spider, and you press the button and it removes the spider, and worked very hard on that.
I was just gonna ask if you can add multiple spiders there, and there we go.
And there's an Easter egg. It's just a demo app for me to be able to demo DevOps things. But it was really fun to build. And I went to a full stack web development boot camp back when I transitioned into tech. And so I had all of this React coding knowledge bouncing around in my mind from like 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. And it was really nice to dust it off and be able to make something again. I felt enabled to do that. So when I was first playing around with it without any MCP servers, have you talked much about MCP servers on the show? Should we assume that people know what they are?
You know what? It doesn't hurt to have a bit of a reminder.
Okay. So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. And the protocol itself, the documentation says it's like, think of it as a USB-C port. Like you can take any tool and then plug it into your IDE using this MCP protocol. And sometimes that tool is going to do something that's completely local to your environment, like help you make tasks, which we'll talk about shortly. And sometimes it can call out to somewhere completely different and maybe like pull in observability data from your Datadog. That's where I work. So, but it's just what comes to mind. So that's a quick gist of what MCP server is. And so when I first started with this project, I was like, no MCP servers, because I want to understand what the base level is. So because I didn't have MCP servers, I started to do some weird workarounds. What I know now, they're pretty weird, but in the moment, it was just what I felt like I needed to do. So I felt like I was repeating myself all the time to like, oh my gosh, stop changing the aspect ratio of my image, or stop doing this, or slow down and explain it, or ask me for approval more often. And so I started, every time I found myself repeating myself, I would save to this preferences MD file, and then I would keep it pinned to the chat or keep telling it to look at that. I also had a problem with, maybe when you're using ChatGPT or whatever, and you ask about something that's like recent news, and it just doesn't know about it, or it just gives you, especially in tech, like information that's kind of outdated. So that's a concern that I had working with the latest technologies. Like, how do I trust that you know the newest stuff? So that was something I was having it look at documentation or trying to verify that it was looking at new things. So that was a problem I had off the bat. Another one is trying to have it make a plan, like having it an AI. So you'll be like, oh, I want to do this very clear thing, and it'll do the clear thing, but then it'll also say, do you want to enhance it with this? And then you'll be like, oh yeah, I do want to enhance it with that. And then all of a sudden you're building something that's way far away than what you meant to build.
So creep when you can have a whole new feature in about 5 minutes is real.
Yeah. And so I started to make a plan, a spider component plan. So basically, like, we call chunk 1, chunk 2, so that I could keep myself and AI on task for what we're going to do next. Now we'll do this. Now we'll do this. So I had so most of these things I'm doing in just markdown documents. And then the last thing I found myself wishing for was, it's all so new to me again, getting back into coding, and it's easy to get stuck in the little details and like this little problem you're fixing. And I wanted to try to keep a high level overview of what I was doing in my mind at the same time. So I think I spent half of the time making that spider app and the other half of the time trying to design a journal system where I could just say, make a journal entry for my latest Git commit or whatever. And then it would add to this engineering journal. And then this journal would have the benefit of when the AI chat inevitably misses context and starts to forget things, I could be like, here's what we were doing recently, and point it back to the journal. So these were all the hand-rolled solutions I was trying to do before adding any MCP tools. And do you relate to those? Do you have any questions where I talk about the tools that solve the problems?
Just to confirm that I've encountered all of these problems and come up with my own weird workarounds. And so, yeah, I'm very curious to see how MCP like solved some of these issues for you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to show you. So, wait. This whole time I've been scrolling. I've been thinking I was showing you my IDE, and I wasn't. Well, shoot. So let me I wanted video. I guess I need to stop my screen share. Share
Yeah,
screen.
I pulled that off screen so you can
share
try
screen.
again.
Yeah, Chrome window, entire screen. Okay. I'm a tech professional. I'm a streaming professional. All right, here we are. This is what I thought I was showing you the whole time. So here's the preferences file I had told you about that I made every time I was trying to keep it, stop repeating myself. Here's the plan that I was talking about when chunk 1, chunk 2. And then here's the elaborate journal system I was building, and honestly spending more time on this journal system than I was making a spider and a rainbow, I think. And so what I discovered from MCP on Monday, I let myself use MCP. And after doing some research, the MCP tools I came up with, which this project's old to me now. So one is memory. So first of all, I didn't know about cursor rules. So cursor rules solves a lot of my problems. Cursor rules is where you can store workflow preferences or I'd say, or like style guide kind of preferences, or like, I don't want you to move so fast. I want you to slow down and explain because I like to understand what's happening. Those types of things. Or do explain if it's code. Don't bother explaining if it's CSS. Like, I don't want to hear about it. Just do it. So there's memory MCP tool. There's context 7 is how you can get it. You can reference the very latest documentation for any technology that you're using. I'll use context 7 to reference some of the other MCP, like Taskmaster's documentation. But if I'm ever getting at documentation, I ask the context 7 MCP server to do that. Memory solves kind of the problem of context. So cursor rules are markdown, and memory is like a graph database. So it's meant to be more like project state or dependencies, or like what your file structure looks like. But if you're about to walk away from your project, you can ask memory to save your current state right now. And then when you come back, you can pull that current state to help cursor get right back to where it was. But so memory is useful. So memory plus cursor rules kind of solves my preferences.md file that I was making. Context 7 solves the documentation problem I was having. And then Taskmaster solves the task, trying to keep everybody on task. And Taskmaster have any of you used Taskmaster before?
No.
It's
First time I'm hearing about it.
It's my favorite. If I had to choose one, it would be Taskmaster. This is an older, I'm going to get to my newer repo, so I haven't really actually touched this in a few weeks. But let's talk about, here's the point right now. I couldn't find an engineering journal MCP server, so I decided to build one. Oh. And I also decided to build it in Python, which I've never touched before.
I'm so excited right now.
So I have this GitHub link. I'll put it in the private chat and y'all can share it, of my MCP commit story. So this is remembering your engineering journey. Let me put this in our speaker chat. I have you. There you go. So now you can share it with everybody. And so what it does is it's triggered by a Git commit. And then it takes in data from 3 sources. It's looking at your AI chat history. It's looking at your Git history. And it's looking at the terminal commands that it can access, which are really the ones that AI is running, not the ones you type with your own fingers. But it pulls in context from those 3 places, and then it makes a journal entry. And then it does that for every Git commit is its own journal entry. And then your first commit of the next day will make a summary of everything you did the day before. And then also, at the first commit of the next week is a weekly summary. There's monthly, quarterly, and yearly summaries. So That's the plan anyway. I'm working very hard on it. So basically my idea is I like to have a big picture understanding of what I'm doing, and having these summaries will keep me help me understand the detail, help me understand really everything at every level. They're scoped so much differently. And with AI, it's all going by so fast. I'm trying just to hold on and still process what's happening. And then just as someone who is in the public eye, a developer advocate, I'm interested in a storytelling aspect. So I want to know mood, like what was frustrating and what made me happy and what felt like a triumph. And that's going to, if I capture that now, later when I'm trying to tell a story about what I did, I have that mood information, which is so valuable. And then also I think it helps with like retrospectives, or just becoming a better person and reflecting on your career and your life and your personality. So
I love that. There's not a lot of engineering, vibe coding conversation that turns into discussion about, okay, what was the experience like, just with the human element of it? Was I getting angry all the time? Was the vibe coding going well, or was it just a dumpster fire? Kind of get to see that evolution over time. I have also kind of been making a habit in my most recent project with building out more or less a sprint plan document with checkboxes and stuff like that, so that you implement the feature, test the feature, or write test coverage for the feature, and then actually run the tests. Because a lot of times Claude will be like, oh yeah, I wrote the feature and I wrote the tests, so we can mark it as done. And it's like, no, you have to run the test.
Run the test. Yeah. I've 100% experienced that.
Yeah. And so having those checkboxes kind of for accountability kind of keeps the model closer into staying on track. And then what I've done more recently is taking those sprint plans, and once they're all completed, I move them into a docs directory that's just sprint notes. But I hadn't thought about decorating it with like a personal journal entry to track also the human side of it, not just the functional side. So thank you. I am stealing notes.
That's amazing. And I think we have kind of a similar process in a way. Before I dig into my process, which I'll talk more about Taskmaster, I want to talk briefly about like once I had the idea, how I got from the idea to like actually building it. And I came across a blog entry by this guy, Harper Reed, about how he likes to vibe code. And what he said, this is one little bit of what he said, was he has a chatbot like ChatGPT talk to him, like instruct the chatbot, ask me questions. I have this kernel of an idea. I want you to ask me one question at a time and hear my thoughts, and let's have a discussion and get from this kernel of an idea to an engineering spec. And then you end up having this like conversation with ChatGPT, and it's asking you things like, it's not telling you, it's not overwhelming you, it's not hallucinating stuff. Like it's helping you hammer out your own idea. And I loved that process. And now I use it a lot to, like, if I'm writing it, using it to help me write a CFP or anything. A lot of times now I'll interact with ChatGPT in a way where it's like, tell it to ask me questions as opposed to telling it to give me answers. And I've been enjoying that.
Yeah, I like that approach. What I've been finding is when I have something that I'm doing vibe coding on, or Gen AI for something, if it's complex or I expect really high quality output, I can spend up to 1 to 2 hours just doing the pre-implementation context building, where it's like
100.
You're discussing different approaches and different strategies and different coding styles or different languages and things like that, right? And you're building all that out. And then I find when I actually invest that up front, once it's time to implement, it gets way closer to the mark on the very first try. And I'm not sitting there just fighting it for a couple of hours to create the code. It just actually has the right context and spits it out well.
That's fabulous. And I do the same, where I'd rather think longer up top and nail it down. Although, of course, there's always little problems or edge cases that I didn't think of that I'm going back to refactor. But yeah, people talk about how fast they can make something. I'm still pretty slow, I think, because I insist on understanding. And it's because I think it depends on, are you just coding a rainbow with a spider on it, or are you trying to actually code an MCP server that other people can use? It does take a lot more time than what I thought when I had heard about vibe coding from far away. I thought all of it was super fast. And now that I'm in it, I'm like, oh no, this is actually, I'm sure it's faster than if I coded by hands, but I'm still being very careful and stepping my way through all of this.
It is still work. Absolutely.
It is, So once I got that engineering spec, I was able to use the MCP server Taskmaster, and then Taskmaster, without any direction or help from me, was able to break my engineering spec into a series of tasks. And so I've similar to you, Kat. This is not what the tool is meant to be used for, but I've archived my completed task because I want to only know what's active, and then I keep adding new things. I'll read about some new best practice and I'll make a task around it, which is maybe I'll never be done this way. But so right now I'm working on task 27, and so the task itself has like a status and dependencies if it depends on other tasks, and a priority. And then once I'm like, okay, I'm ready to work on task 27, I can ask the tool, break this task into subtasks. So now this has subtasks. And then I'll work on one subtask at a time. But then what I also do, and I don't know if this is normal for the tool, is I want to make an implementation plan for the task. And my implementation plans all have a vibe to them. So this is subtask 1. And then always I want to write tests first. First write tests, and then I have to, just like you said, Kat, run tests and verify they fail. You can't just write them. I want you to run them. And then to verify they fail for the right reasons. And then there are some design choices associated with this. Stop right now, talk to me, the human, and get approval for the design choices. There's a good chance I'm going to take it back and forth between Claude models and get consensus between two models before moving forward. Then implement the functionality, and then document, and then complete. So that's how I do my very thorough vibe coding. So I'm breaking it into tasks, breaking those into subtasks. Each subtask has an implementation plan, and then I'm slowly turning my way through everything I want to do. And I have my implementation plan, my subtask planning all documented here, because that's not a normal Taskmaster AI thing. That's a Whitney thing. But I've never used Python before. I have an excellent mind for theory and what should happen and good practice, but I don't have I don't trust myself to see little errors as they happen. So I have these checks and balances in place, like the checks and balances of having two models approve something, and the checks and balances of using test-driven development to make sure that I'm not building that I am building everything I can on a really solid foundation.
Okay, I have a question, and this is a question for the class, the group, the public, all that. Vibe coding gets a little bit of a bad rap, and I think that vibe coding a demo in 30 minutes is definitely more of a vibe coding term. But what other terms are coming out? Are we going to stick with vibe coding forever? I just happened to say prompt-driven development the other day, and I was like, wait a minute, that's actually, I feel like this is working. But how do you communicate when you're doing something legitimate with code gen?
The spider rainbows was definitely vibe coding. I don't know if this is vibe coding anymore, what I'm working on now.
Right.
I agree with that. It doesn't feel right to say it, but it's not normal coding either. There needs to be a middle term. You're so right. Let's talk about that prompt-driven development thing you said. So when a request comes in, it comes from those three pieces of context. Let me find my script. So it comes to the server, and I have this generate journal entry. So what it's going to do is receive data from those three places, and I am I'm adding type and structure to it. So I expect it to be shaped a certain way. And then it receives the data, and then it's a freaking AI prompt is the body of the function, which is bananas. It's just,
Isn't it?
It's so wild. And then so it does all this stuff to create a journal entry, but it's just me. It's just like human language. And then there's some actual coding for how I want you to assemble it. So I have these, I don't know if it's interesting. This needs to be, don't judge me. This needs to be refactored. And so these are each separate, but I have all these generate functions, and each one's very many lines long. That's just generating commitment. So I know what I want. Discussion. You know what? Let me show you a finished entry. This isn't interesting. Sorry. Discussion notes. So I wanted to pull actual discussion notes. So let me show you. I have sandbox journal entries. So let's look at what I did this morning. Oh God, I didn't know this was going to be streamed. I should have planned better for this. But this morning, there are a few journal entries from this morning. So 6:06 in the morning, I was working, y'all, making my first commit. So So here it's going to say a summary of what I did. This is meant to be in more friendly language. I'm still working it out. Then there's a technical synopsis of everything that happened in a much more technical way. There's a list of accomplishments. There's frustrations. If I do anything mood-wise to let them know this is annoying, it's going to be here.
Interesting. Okay.
But also it makes a little, I have a lot of anti-hallucination laws in there, but it still is making assumptions that feeling tests are frustrating.
How is it able to pick up on your emotion and how you're feeling?
So it is, I've asked it to pay a special attention to any mood words that happen in commit messages or in chat.
What's an example of one?
Sentiment analysis.
Yes. Ugh, or yeah. Like, woohoo, like, oh, I'm happy, like, like, oh my God, not again. I can't believe this. But it seems to, I kind of toyed with if you give it too much direction, then it gets too honed in on certain terms, but not enough. But it does a pretty good job of knowing what my mood was. Mostly
if I use WTF and exclamation points, you know what's up.
Exactly. And so I do have it pull some verbatim discussion notes, which is always really fun to read after the fact. It actually makes me feel pretty smart sometimes because I see all my cool aha moments, or that doesn't make any sense, or me calling out AI on an illogical thing, all in one place. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did think of all that. It feels good. It does make me feel important as the human, oh, you would have really screwed this up without me. I did need to be here. So that's what one, there's terminal commands, there's commit metadata, and that's what one entry looks like. And then it'll take all the entry. And then I also have a manual reflection. So you could just say, add a manual reflection and type some stuff into your chat, and that exactly verbatim will just go into your journal to get surfaced later. So if you want to write a reminder to yourself, or just write something in the context of this was frustrating, this was great, I had this good idea. Oh, I have this thing I want to pursue later, but I need to finish this thought first. You can just say add reflection and it'll add it to your journal. I think I did some of that today, but I can't find it now, and that's okay. So then, so it has 8 different sections in one journal entry, and then that'll get synthesized into daily summary, which then gets synthesized into a weekly summary and monthly summary. I haven't been doing it quite that long. Or the ones I do have are just pretty fabricated. But the wild thing is the AI prompts. That's what we were kind of talking about. And I'm still interested in, I haven't quite gotten to MVP. I've tested it every single way I know how. And I, of course, since I'm in the observability space now, have it instrumented to death. But hopefully in the next week, I'll be able to really discover like how data is moving through and how like when that function, like that first one I showed you, that's completely AI driven. What is the AI outputting? It's like, you know, and when it's being received here, what is the AI? I'm very interested in how it goes from here.
So
yeah,
you hinted at having your MCP server very instrumented. You can't just stop there. We need to know. We need to know more.
Oh, I'm learning. This is where I'm learning a lot because so actually. It's OTel. It's all OTel, but that does detect if there's Datadog and then also add some certain spans and stuff. So I have a multi-exporter set up. So it's exporting OpenTelemetry and Prometheus and Console.
Fancy.
And then, and then I'm just trying to, I know that I'm probably going to want to tell an observability story around this later. And so I just am trying to capture everything that I think might be relevant. But I haven't gotten to the point yet where I'm putting it into a dashboard just yet. I'm not quite to MVP, actually. If anyone did click on that GitHub link, it's going to be like, this thing's amazing, but there's nothing to actually, you can't install it yet. But I'm just days away from that, I think. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm really interested in watching this develop because I've been wondering, not just on an individual level, but like on a larger, say, team level or something. Like, at what point can we inject observability into our conversations? Because I want to do things like cluster analysis. How many times are we writing the same or similar prompts across a team? And if that's a pattern that we're all using, should it actually be something that we take a minute and invest time solving programmatically, or at least building tighter fencing around, even if it is still an LLM generative job? So things like that are really intriguing to me, just for learning how to scale practices across my team, and then also refine based on all of our unique approaches. Because like Whitney, you said we have some similar, prompt-driven development type documentation structures, and you're building an MCP server that specifically helps you architect your prompts. And those are things that we actually need higher level visibility around, more than just one person's experience, because it takes all of us to succeed with semantic sciences.
And I'd love to hear what people's and your experiences is like writing prompts in general, and what, like, having some observability around what's successful. Like, when's the AI getting lazy? It's too long and it's losing context. Like, what's it able to hold on to? Yeah.
I feel like sometimes the problem is also like me being lazy in not giving a proper prompt. Sometimes I'll just like go right into ChatGPT and be like, this, and this. And I'll give it like 5 words, and then it has to just infer what I'm actually talking about. But then I think the experience starts to improve when you start telling it, I need you to clarify something, or I need you to hone in on one particular area. I mean, the other side to that too is you just give up all your context up front and then start to fine tune that response as you go along too. But sometimes I'll be in calls and I don't know anything, and I'm not just going to simply Google, because who does that anymore?
What is this? 2024?
Oh, no. Right? Okay. So
let me go Alta Vista that for you.
Yeah. So I'm interested in the gates, and I don't know yet how well they're working because I haven't been able to look at observability data, and I'm very interested in learning more about that. Like, is it enough to shape the data formats that are going into and out of my prompt-driven functions, or is it still making stuff up? We'll find out. You can have me back later. Yeah, when I have dashboards.
Dashboards are nice. I would love that. People love to see things. They love visuals. They love graphs. They love line
We like
charts.
pretty pictures.
We love pretty pictures.
We love the spiders, the rainbow spiders.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Not bugs, spiders.
Yeah, spiders and rainbows.
Not a bug.
Yeah. I like spiders and rainbows because I think they're the literal opposite in concept. I can't think of anything those two things have in common.
I like that.
Do you have, so I showed you my MCP servers and I've really stuck with those. I've heard there's an awesome one called Playwright do you know about Playwright? Yeah. It captures your browser screenshots and brings it in, and you can do testing and planning and building around that. But do you have any other MCP servers that you love?
Yeah, I feel like Playwright is really awesome because it is that screenshot capability, but it also has other capabilities like reading the browser console logs and being able to like actually detect what's happening. Cool. When the website's rendered, it can scroll around and click around. And that is really helpful if you're like me and you're all infrastructure and backend stuff and you don't know how to do any web UI things. I use sequential thinking a lot, which I'm wondering is kind of like one of the like Taskmaster things or whatever that you were using. I haven't used the memory MCP much, just a little bit. So I'm curious, you were sharing a little bit of kind of how you use memory, and I'm curious to kind of play with it again and see if I get a little more use out of it.
One thing that's annoying is it doesn't hold on to directory structure. And so memory is especially helpful to be like, here's the directory structure.
I use the tree command heavily when prompting.
Okay.
Yeah. And it seems to like that quite well. And then if I have a general overview of the structure of the code or something like that, I use Mermaid a lot in my documentation.
I don't know Mermaid.
Mermaid is like Notion, not Notion, Draw.io or what are the paid for things that companies use? But those diagramming tools, and this is all Markdown, and LLMs just love it.
Mermaid. Cool.
Yeah, Mermaid .live, I think, is a live interactive. You can write the markdown on one side and see it rendered on the other. Then there's Deep Wiki is an MCP server that I use heavily. Basically, it's part of the Devon, if you remember, ecosystem apparently. But what that service offers is more or less a wiki, an LLM generative wiki that includes RAG and some LLM augmentation of the results. So the request goes from the MCP to the Deep Wiki about whatever specific library or repository you're finding out more about. And it has a RAG index of that Git repo. And it will take the prompt, build up the context specifically for that, optimize it with an LLM on their side before it returns back to your IDE. So DeepWiki has been hugely helpful for me on making sure that I'm using the latest functions and schema and stuff like that for libraries and such. It's been really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wrote those down. I'll be exploring those later for sure.
And then GitHub Official is amazing because I use it to have to write like issues and draft PRs and things like that, and then include the checkboxes and such, so that when it's ready to commit things, it'll actually go in and update completed work and make sure that the scope was right and all of that stuff. So
I have
Those
thought
are
it would
tasks.
be really cool to make Taskmaster tasks into issues on GitHub for like
Oh, great.
collaborative, for
Yeah.
like joint understanding. I don't know when that's ever going to bubble up to the top of what I'm going to do next, but
What are you
it's a
going to
nice
do
thought.
next?
I'm just going to keep working on this, and I'm going to go to Japan.
Oh,
Yes.
I love that.
Japan.
Yeah.
Japan is. I wish I can go back. I just need to move there and live there forever.
You want to go back and not leave again.
Yeah, it is an experience.
I'm going to go for KubeCon, but then I'm also bringing my brother, and we're going to do some city hopping when we're there. So I'm going to try not to be on Cursor, but maybe just a little.
No, you can't. No huffing AI glue while you're vacationing.
I need like a accountability partner. If you see any commits on these dates, you're gonna text me strongly worded.
You can just add that as a feature for your MCP where you log PTO, and if you show up, it's like
Not only are we not going to let you make that commit, but we're going to destroy what you've already made.
I'll delete lines if you keep showing your face here. Oh no, the robots are going to be in charge for real.
I see some folks in the chat are going to be on KubeCon too. Come say hi. Let's hang out. Hi.
I think I just booked my tickets and hotel for KubeCon Atlanta.
Awesome. Oh wow.
I'll be there.
I should totally book my hotel because I always leave it till like 3 weeks before, and there's like nothing.
I'm gonna be at Cisco Live.
Ooh, that's like next week, right?
It is. Yeah, driving down on Sunday.
Oh,
where is it?
I'm so jealous.
San Diego.
Cool.
It's gonna be hot.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been to a single Cisco Live ever, and
I didn't even know that Cisco Live existed until I, started a new job, and then it was like Cisco Live everywhere, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go.
You're gonna see all my like ex-VMware buddies and all my Isovalent friends.
Isovalent.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
See Duffy, that would be great.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's
Tell
there.
them all I say hi.
So tech-wise, what's next for me? I'm really obsessed. Like, I just really want to make this thing. But I think I need to learn my way all around Datadog and observability. So I'm throwing my for those of you who just met me, Datadog is a new job for me. I started in March. So this is a really fun way to get my hands dirty with OpenTelemetry and Datadog and really just jump right to the front lines of what's happening in the observability space.
I think that's actually a neat way to learn the product that you're picking up, though, because that's also how a lot of customers will be learning the product at this point. So it's going to be neat that you're basically kind of blazing that trail as your own learning journey.
Yeah. When I talk to customers, I'll be like, I totally understand. I also really I would love to hear, I'm really enjoying like coding, of course, and like the planning and understanding the big picture, but I'm also like become really interested in workflow and the workflow around vibe coding, which is too casual a term. But what do the rest of you or anyone in the chat, I'm interested if you have any general workflow tips for what's working for you.
I want to defer to Kat and Ned because they're way better at vibe coding than I ever will be. All I do is just ask ChatGPT. I need to move past that. But I don't do nearly as much development as the three of you do. So
I will say, because I will say it the shortest, I am still very much in the baby steps of leveraging AI. I've just moved beyond, this is slightly better than autocomplete, and I'm starting to trust it with actually writing code for me a little bit more. But I feel like the thing I really need to work on is being more communicative in my prompts. I don't think I'm being detailed enough. And so I really like the idea you suggested, which is tell it to ask me questions for clarification before it actually writes anything. So I'm going to be writing a thing for setting up resources in Azure for a lab experiment, and I'm going to briefly describe what I want to do, and then I'm going to have Claude just ask me a whole bunch of questions about it, save it all in a Markdown file, and then go, okay, let's make that happen.
Yeah. And what I did was I started with ChatGPT, got my engineering spec, and then took it into Claude. And I was like, hey, poke holes in this. Are there any logical problems? Yeah.
So what you're saying is that I need to also subscribe to Claude. In addition to what I
prefer Claude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Claude's
you
less
can
of
let
a treat for one
ChatGPT
thing.
subscription lapse. I mean, just let it go. I'm kidding. But maybe not. But definitely the antagonistic workflow is a big thing for me. So I started making progress trusting the code that's being generated a lot more. Once I started treating the LLM like a team of engineers and like an entire project team. So it's like, hey, here's your identity, here are your credentials, here is your work background, and here is your experience on these particular technologies. Okay, now we need to go design XYZ to solve this use case with these requirements. And that gives one LLM chat context a certain window, but then after we have the plan developed, I'll take it and we'll jump into an engineering mindset instead and say, okay, we have this project requirement and we need to engineer for future planning and to make sure that we're following best practices for the code. And we'll include like keywords like Google Style Guide, or for the language, or like Rust has their own style guide, and that actually has been very influential in some Rust code gen that I've been doing recently. But generally give it a totally different persona that is common on an engineering team. And now it's like, okay, give your design review and start planning that, making notes on implementation details to make sure that we're following, good naming practices and encapsulation and things.
Kat, have you tried custom agents yet?
Another
thing on my horizon.
What is that?
So I have a friend, shout out to Eddie if you're watching. He loves the custom agents. And so here you can add your own agent. And so you could all your different team members that you were just talking about can be agents. So you could have someone whose job it is to worry about REST. What did you say? I'm so outside of it. But like someone whose their job is to lint, is to make sure this is all professional or whatever. And then you make them their own agents. And then when you need someone who does that skill, then you send them out to do whatever, that agent to do whatever it needs to do in your code.
I'm curious which one you're talking about, because the Googles are not being obvious right now.
Since it's not something I've done yet and just something on my radar, I mean, if I click manual, no. Agent. There's a way to build a custom agent. I'll have to get back to you and we'll put it in the chat because Eddie gave me a link that I haven't researched yet either. But with Cursor, you can make custom agents.
I see.
So did you find it? Agent. Yeah. If you look in the Cursor documentation and look for custom agents, you'll be able to figure it out.
I haven't been using Cursor recently, so I'll have to go investigate that a little bit more. But maybe that's a call to create a custom agent MCP. I don't need more projects.
And so custom agent, what's on my radar, like this subtask planning, I go through every step back and forth whenever I'm starting a new task. I want an agent that's like trained up on what I want my subtasks to look like. And I could tell that agent when I'm starting a new task, break these into the subtasks in the way that I like them. So basically specialized little buddies, specialized little robots.
Specialized little robots.
Yeah, your team.
I learned things. I'm so excited to take some stuff back and do a little more sentiment type capture.
I'm literally gonna just like spend my evening looking up Taskmaster today.
Do you know what? Taskmaster is also a British television show that I love.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
When you
it's
said
like my
that,
favorite
that's
show.
the first thing that popped in my head was Taskmasters, and I was like, I don't think it's that. So that would be interesting. I don't know how that could be an MCP server.
I feel like when you said Taskmaster, my brain just immediately went to like a comic book villain for some reason. I don't know why. I feel like there is, you know what? I'm going to Google this right now. Taskmaster. Yes. Yes, there is a Marvel character. Interesting.
Yeah. I vaguely remember what you're talking about. I think it was like a side plot on one of the Avengers like spin-off shows on Disney Plus or something. I could be wrong.
They are actually in the Thunderbolts movie. I just realized.
Oh, I didn't see that. So
that's interesting. Okay.
I heard it was okay. I don't know. I get to see like one movie a year, and that it was not that.
I usually wait till it comes to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It was Minecraft. I saw the Minecraft movie because I didn't want to see it, but my son, he wanted to go see it, and because he's under 16, if I take him at night, he has to be accompanied by a parent. Not because of the rating of the movie. It's a policy of the movie theater because they don't want parents just dropping off their teenagers and running away. So I had to sit with his friends, and they had like the time of their lives. And meanwhile, it was like 4D. So I'm in this chair that's like throwing me back and forth and like spraying me with water. And I'm like, this is awful. Why does anybody want to do that?
Oh, wait, huh? Oh,
it's
okay.
It's like, Minecraft is such a lo-fi game, and so it's funny to be 4D with that. Yeah,
it was. I've never done that in a theater before. That was like a whole new experience where they like have some special effects like fog machines, and like the chairs are specially made, and it also they like do scents in the theater, so it'll like smell like different things depending on the scene. It's insane. I had no idea what I was getting into. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna sit, eat some popcorn, and watch a movie. No. Don't get food. Definitely don't get food. That's a bad move.
I never watched the movie, but when I was scrolling TikTok a few weeks back, or maybe a couple of months back, all I would see is Jack Black's song about lava chicken. And I just like, I could not shake that song out of my head because it's so catchy that I started singing it at home, and my wife was like, what are you singing? What are you talking about? Anyways, we are at time. Whitney, I want to thank you so much for coming on and just sharing all of the goodness that you had. I hope you have a fantastic trip to Japan. I'm so jealous. I'm like super jealous, but I know you'll take pictures and share with all of us.
I hope you're flying on an Airbus.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast, and I'm totally open to things that I'm doing being very wrong, and having lots of room for improvement, because I'm absolutely making it up as I go along. So if you are watching this recording or have been watching the live stream and holding your tongue, please do give any and all feedback, positive or negative, for my process, because I'm working it out. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming by. Yeah. Everyone, have a great Friday. Happy Friday. Bye. Take care. We'll see you next week.